Chapter 9 Grumpy Puff by Sky. "Get off my back," said Puff, moaning. "Oh, I shouldn't have come here." We slid down to the ground to the sound of Puff muttering over and over, "I'm going to lose my treasure, going to die. Should not have come here, going to lose my treasure, going to die." I decided to leave him alone until he'd calmed down. Once we were on the ground, I picked up Jemima and hugged her. "How are you?" I asked, starting to cry. "Oh, where did this little one come from? Is she really part of us?" Jemima looked proud. "She's definitely part of us. She splintered when they tore out my wings." Jem's eyes filled with tears. I hugged her again. She was trying so hard not to break down. The little baby stared up at us from Six's arms. It was a strange feeling looking at her, as if I was staring at a living, breathing 3D movie of my life, back when I was a baby. "She has wings," said Jem. "I checked, but luckily she doesn't seem to know how to use them yet." "Thank goodness," I said with a sigh. Puff snorted some fire towards us, but not in a way that would harm us. "We can't sleep in here," he said. "Treasure is enchanted and not in a good way." "Is it really bad?" asked Six. "Treasure can entice you to steal it," said Puff, "and if you try to do that, I will have to kill you." "Oh no," said Jem. I felt so sorry for her, for what she must have been through with the dragons. I couldn't say much because I didn't want to hurt Puff's feelings, but I wasn't sure if I could have survived what Jem had been through, especially the part that involved being held prisoner in a flimsy basket teetering over the ocean. I was very grateful that I couldn't feel the fear and pain of my splintered selves, nor could they feel mine. Then again, that was the reason they'd splintered away in the first place, to avoid my pain. "Follow me," said Puff. He went through some dark tunnels into a wide, bright space. It was a cross between a town hall and a cave. "You lot can sleep on the bed," said Puff. "I'll take the sofa." Six and Jem leapt onto the bed and jumped up and down. Puff groaned and said, "Take it easy on my bed." "Yes, be careful. Puff has been very kind." Six and Jem sat down and mumbled their apologies. Puff shook his head and sprawled himself across the enormous red bean bag opposite the bed. He had in his claws a little wooden box. It was the only thing he'd taken from his stash of treasure. Inside was guitar strings and letters that had been sealed with wax. They were all addressed to Puff, which had been written in different fancy fonts. Also in the box were sealing waxes in red, green and purple, and a metal stamp to seal wax onto envelopes. The seal was a mixture of a capital P and the image of a dragon's head. I wondered why Puff was playing with the little box instead of counting his jewels or his coins. "What's that?" asked Six. "Nothing," said Puff. Six nodded. "It's from an old friend," said Puff. "I don't have many friends, so this box is just as treasured as my other things." "It's not enchanted, is it?" asked Six. "It won't make me want to steal it." "Don't you dare take it," said Puff. "Oh, I wouldn't," said Six. "Not ever, unless an enchantment came upon me." Puff sighed. "Leave me alone." Just then the baby began to cry. "Moat's hungry," said Jem, looking frightened, "and I don't have any milk." "Moat," I said. "Is that her name?" "I gave it to her," said Jem proudly. "It's a great name," I said, examining the strange little bottle Jem was holding. It was decorated with tiny dragons. "A dragon mother gave it to me," said Jemima. "Her husband was an angel, so her babies were hybrids. They still came out of eggs, but they needed the milk of an angel, not the horrible food that dragons eat." Jemima looked pale. "Don't ask me about that because I might vomit," she added. Puff rolled his eyes and looked impatient. Jemima continued, "Anyway, because the babies were a cross between a dragon and an angel, the teat was just right for a human baby." Moat was still crying. Puff snorted and groaned. "Why me?" he muttered. "What?" I asked. "Why did I have to get caught up with you?" he asked. "Just feed the stupid thing. You didn't mention a crying baby." "I didn't know there'd be a crying baby," I said. Puff looked grumpy. "Just how many parts of you are there?" he asked. "I don't know," I said.